Hey everyone, I gotta admit, I'm pretty embarrassed. It was a nice day and I decided to go for a relaxing walk in my American city. But as usual, I let my mind wander and I took a wrong turn at some point because, I somehow ended up in a field in the English countryside. Getting back was the least of my concerns though, because in the distance, I saw something that took my mind off that embarrassing mistake. Sitting in the field was an abandoned mansion that was constructed in the 1550s. These remains are sitting on land rich with history, some of it pretty dark, which I'll get into. Welcome to the abandoned Hampton Gay Manor House. Now, because this is nearly 500 years old, I'm not going to bore you with the details of every bloke that owned this land. And yeah, maybe I did pick up some British slang while I was here. And maybe I did buy an aggressive amount of what's-its. Let's get into it. The setting of this tale takes place in this small area right here. The manor stood at the center of a typical village with a church, a mill, and cottages to house its 86 villagers. Since you asked, London is about 70 miles southeast of here. Oxford is 12 miles south, and where I took the wrong turn is about 3,300 miles to the west. I'll worry about that later. Because I was wondering, who was Hampton Gay and why did he have a mansion here? Well, first, Hampton Gay isn't a person, though I wish it was. That's an awesome name. Instead, it was just the name of the village. The Gay family were owners of two properties here in the 12th and 13th centuries. The village name combines their surname with the Old English word for a village or farm. Boom, Hampton Gay. In 1544, this land was purchased by John Barry, a wealthy glover, who built the manor house. So, this really should be John Barry Manor House, if anything, but whatever. If you think it looks awesome now, check out this illustration of it from back then. What a beauty. Oh yeah, this was a gorgeous place, but what happened here soon after was pretty ugly. Cue the Oxfordshire Rising. In 1596, the Barry family closed off land at Hampton Gay for sheep pasture, and by this time, it was John's grandson Vincent who lived in the manor. The villagers, unable to till the land for their own produce, faced starvation, and many joined a revolt. The plan was for the villagers to come together to murder Vincent Barry and his daughter, but this was foiled when the village carpenter turned informant. One of the ringleaders of the revolt received the barbaric sentence of being hanged, drawn, and quartered. Bloody hell, Barry, jeez. In 1682, the Barry family faced financial hardships and sold the manor, which would change hands several times through the centuries. The local economy was supported heavily by a nearby paper mill on the River Cherwell. Now, remember this paper mill because it becomes important later. Hey, I'm not joking, remember this paper mill. Bloody hell. Anyway, this mill employed most of the people in the area, and they were by most accounts pretty content. At some point though, the village vanished, and today the only reminders of the community that once lived here are the manor remains and, in the same field, the Church of St. Giles. The area here is effectively a ghost town. So what happened? Well, once the late 1800s came around, a lot of bad things happened here in a short amount of time. Things that would define and shape the future of Hampton Gay. The first event was on December 24th, 1874. The Shipton-on-Cherwell train crash, one of the worst ever disasters on the Great Western Railway, just a few hundred yards from Hampton Gay. In the early hours of Christmas Eve 1874, a passenger train with 13 carriages carrying 260 people was derailed after a tire failed and engineers tried to stop the train too quickly. A local paper reported, the train was traveling at the rate of 40 miles an hour, and the impetus of the carriages carried them with terrific force for a long distance until they finally crashed into splinters in the meadow below. The majority of the killed were hurried into eternity in a moment. The scene was simply indescribable. The article goes on to say, The fatal occurrence was witnessed from the Hampton Gay paper mill by the workmen at the mill who told their boss. They proceeded to rescue the sufferers, some of whom they conveyed as fast as possible to the private residence of that gentleman at the manor house, Hampton Gay. Victims of the accident were also moved to the Hampton Gay paper mill, shown here in the Illustrated London News. The manor house at Hampton Gay became the base for the inquiry into the accident, which led to a number of changes across the Great Western Railway, including carriage designs, braking systems, and methods of communication between the train staff. It seems that train crash was the beginning of the end for this village. In the years that followed, the paper mill was damaged by a series of fires, until it finally went bankrupt and was closed for good in 1887 and demolished shortly after, ending employment for dozens of workers. After its closure, the population of Hampton Gay fell to 30. Unfortunately, the manor house had an equally terrible year, with many urban legends saying the land was cursed after the train crash. The mansion, shown here in 1870, retained its original Elizabethan plan and features almost unaltered through the centuries, being 3-storied and constructed of coarse rubble with freestone dressings. That is, until 1887, when its roofs and interior were destroyed by a massive fire. By this point, it was owned by Wadham College, who had no plans to restore or rebuild the manor house. This is where it gets interesting though. In 1928, the college sold the property to Colonel Stanley Barry, a World War I veteran and descendant of the original Barry family who constructed the manor almost 400 years before. But to this day, it still hasn't been restored. The village of Hampton Gay is regarded as an important archaeological site and is protected as a scheduled monument. The manor house ruins themselves have been added to the Historic England Register of Buildings at Risk. Recently, a proposal was put forward to bring the manor back into use as a single dwelling. The plan was to build a house within the ruins that would provide support for the original walls. But English Heritage objected, saying that the conversion will clearly alter its character as an uninhabited ruin and will have significant impact upon both its historic and aesthetic interest. So for now, it'll sit peacefully in this beautiful field. Unlike me, standing, still pretty lost, and trying to get back home. So I left the field and, I must have taken another wrong turn because I somehow ended up in the Irish countryside at the Cliffs of Moher. I'm actually surprised by how little safety there is here because you could just fall off the edge at any point. I guess maybe a little bit more lax in Ireland. Right over this, right here, this is only like 4 feet in front of me. It's like a 400-foot drop. Well, can't get more lost at this point, so might as well see what else is around here. Maybe next we'll take some bikes out on a quiet road, say hi to some friends, I don't know, venture into a secluded forest, hop a little gate, and see an abandoned Irish castle. That sounds like it'd be pretty cool, and might be a story for another time. Interesting abandoned places like this and learn about their history, you can check out the rest of my Abandoned from Above series on my channel right now. Thank you very much for watching.